guys, welcome back to reading. Today we're going to keep learning about point of view. So yesterday we learned that point of view was who was telling the story. And we learned that it can be two different types of people. It could either be a character, someone who is in the story. So yesterday that was Mama Bird, or it could be the narrator, that's someone not in the story telling you what happens. That was me yesterday. So today we're going to learn how now there can be more than one character in a story. So what happens if you have more than one character? How do you know when someone else is talking? Well, yesterday we talked about those quotation marks. They look kind of like commas hanging in the air that go around words. Those are going to show you when someone new starts talking. If you see quotation marks, it means that a character in the story is talking. Then you have to use the words that the narrator says to figure out who's talking. Did they say, said mother bird or asked mother bird? Did they say things said dog or asked dog? That will tell you who's talking. So today I have two friends with me. I have Frog and I have Toad, and they are going to help me to tell a story, and we're going to figure out whose point of view it is. Is it Frog's? Is it Toad? Or is it mine as the narrator? So today we're going to read a book from the Frog and Toad Together series, and it's called In the Garden. So as we're reading this, we're going to decide who is talking. Is it Frog, Toad, or the narrator? Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to think as a reader. I know that this is not a character in the story because there are not any quotation marks around it. So if it's not a character, it has to be the narrator. So the narrator's the one who's talking right now. Toad came walking by. "What a fine garden you have, Frog," he said. Well, you might be wondering, how did I know that that was Toad? Well, I see the quotation marks. "What a fine garden you have, Frog." And it also told me that Toad came walking by. That's how I knew it was Toad. "Yes," said Frog, "it is very nice, but it was hard work." Well, this time I knew it was Frog because it said Frog. But I also see the quotation marks there. That tells me that a character in the story is talking. "I wish I had a garden," said Toad. "Here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground," said Frog, "and soon you will have a garden." Well, I knew when Toad was talking and when Frog were talking because there were quotation marks. But the first part said Toad, and the bottom said Frog. That's how I knew who was talking. "How soon?" asked Toad. I'm going to ask you a question. How did I know that that was Toad talking? Right, and how else? Right, I heard two things. We knew it was Toad because there were quotations. That meant it was a character. And we knew it was Toad because it said, asked Toad. "Quite soon," said Frog. Well, how did I know that was Frog? Right, and what's the other reason? Very good. There's quotation marks around "quite soon," so I know it's a character, and it said Frog, so I knew it was Frog. Let's look at the next part. Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. Are there any quotation marks? Nope. So is it a character? No. That means it's the narrator. "Now seeds," said Toad, "start growing." How did I know that was Toad? Right, quotation marks, and it said Toad. Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, "Now seeds, start growing." So that whole time where there's no quotation marks, it's the narrator. But that last part, those really big words that say, "Now seeds, start growing." I know that's Toad because of the quotation marks, and it says, Toad put his head close and said loudly. Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, "Now seeds start growing." Who said that part, "Now seeds start growing"? Was it Frog? Well, how do you know it wasn't Frog? Well, there's quotation marks. So that means that it's a character. Couldn't it be Frog? Oh, it says Toad put his head close and shouted. That's how we know it's Toad. We can't just look for the quotation marks. We also have to see whose name is there. Frog came running up the path. "What is all this noise?" he asked. Who's talking? Right, it's Frog. There's quotation marks and it said Frog. "My seeds will not grow," said Toad. We know it's Toad because there's quotation marks and it said Toad. "You are shouting too much," said Frog. "Those poor seeds are afraid to grow." We know that it's Frog because there's quotation marks and it said Frog. So as you can see, it can be a little bit tricky trying to figure out who is talking because even though there are those quotation marks there, it doesn't always mean it's the character. It just means it's a character. So now we have to figure out who said it. We can't just look for quotation marks. We also have to look for those key words that tell us who said it. So what I want you to do now is to get in your packet and you're going to get out this page right here. It's called Frog and Toad POV. POV means point of view. So what you're going to do, the directions say, circle the person whose point of view the paragraph is told from. So I'm going to read right now the paragraph for you, and you're going to circle who said it, Toad, Frog, or narrator. And then we're going to do all four. When we're finished, you're going to take a picture of this and upload it so your teachers and I can see if you were able to identify the point of view. So if you don't have your packet and you don't have something to write with, pause the video now and go and get those things. All right, now that we're back, we're going to start with the first one right here. Follow along as I read. It says, Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. "What shall I do?" cried Toad. "There must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world." We see quotation marks. That means it has to be a character. But which character? Listen again. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. "What shall I do?" cried Toad. "These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world." So circle who said it. Was it Toad, Frog, or the narrator? All right, let's go to the next one. Then Toad felt very tired and he fell asleep. Do you see quotation marks? All right, no quotation marks. That means it's, circle your answer, Toad, Frog, or narrator. Let's look at the next one. "Toad, Toad, wake up," said Frog. "Look at your garden." Do you see quotation marks? All right, so who is it? Toad, Frog, or narrator? Let's look at the last one. Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming up out of the ground. Do you see quotation marks? All right, circle your answer. Toad, Frog, or narrator? All right, now that you're finished with this, snap a picture of it. The picture icon is there and upload it to Dojo. I'll see you back tomorrow to learn a little bit more about point of view. Bye, guys.